You're listening to the #1 podcast for the #1 adult flag football league in the world, TUFF League, with your hosts, Steve and Danny. Join us as we break down all the teams, players, and conferences in the league. So get ready, because it's time for some TUFF Talk.
Wow, Danny coming in with the intro today. We're talking Mid-City Spartan here. This is going to be a good podcast.
Waiting to get an intro in.
Hey, you know what? I love it. Let's keep it rolling. And we just got finished talking about the Van Nuys.
The
Mid-City Titan Division. And you can check out that podcast on our TUFF League TV Facebook page. But now we're talking Spartan Division. And the first team we're going to talk about is a team that I was dead wrong about. That's the Mountain Lions.
Oh, okay. Mountain Lions time.
0-2.
This was rough. We were both wrong here.
Oh.
We were both wrong here. And
you're breaking my heart, Martinez.
They had a rough schedule in week 1 because they had to play the former champs, and then they had to play Tony Monzo and his new Punisher squad, and nobody really knew what they were coming with, and they came out with some heat. So the Mountain Lions really had a rough week 1.
They really did. And, you know, I was going to wait till later in the podcast and not just blast him right to begin with, but...
Jump right into it.
Danny and myself...
Just yourself.
We both watched the footage of this. This team, the Mountain Lions, took both games to overtime.
Same score in both games.
Same score, 33-33 going into overtime.
33-39 in both games.
That's the ending score, right? And it came down to a lack of blocking... Yep. And some very bad interceptions by Martinez in both games.
Yeah, this was rough because, you know, they could have very easily been 2-0 right now, and we would be talking completely different.
That's right.
But just like that, they went to 0-2, and now we're forced here to speculate why they're 0-2, and they're close to out of 7 teams, they're third to last.
Martinez is choking.
Wow. And it's, you know, and he's not the only one to blame.
No, and
for sure.
lack of blocking was a big deal.
Right, and he's right, as Steven just said, that we both looked at the footage and we both seen, well, you know, we wanted to give Martinez the benefit of the doubt. Well, maybe it was a good throw and it was on his receivers. Or like, why? Because 2 plays cost you 2 wins in the same night. That very rarely happens.
Right.
And I feel bad for him because he's on the spotlight for that. And we looked at both those overtime plays, and it was a huge lack of blocking that forced Martinez to throw the ball sooner than he had hoped, causing that interceptions.
But they were bad throws. The first one was underthrown by about 5 yards, and the second one was overthrown by about 5 yards.
And we know that Martinez is a good quarterback, so we know that he is capable of throwing under pressure like that. You know, just because he's under pressure is still not a huge excuse for a bad throw.
But those rushers coming in on him were completely unblocked.
Right.
Like nobody even touched him.
Right. Go look at the footage. I mean, that's huge. If the Mountain Lions are listening, your blocking is getting messed up. You need to have someone staying in there. They had someone rushing in on both games, and it cost them.
You know what? I'm putting Mike Kleiss on blast.
Who's the other one in the other video? Darren Thorpe.
Darren Thorpe.
And I hate to say this because Darren Thorpe is a former teammate of mine, and he's a super cool dude, and I like him a lot. But I guess those 2 guys are going to be put on blast here.
Well, and Darren Thorpe actually went out for a pass, so I don't blame him as much. Maybe Martinez did tell him to go out.
Okay.
But for Kleiss, I saw him standing there just straight fixing his glove while Martinez was getting like bombarded.
Rushed by Caker.
Right.
By Jonathan Caker, the swordfish.
And
that's
so,
right.
And so when you got a teammate that's not even in the play,
right.
he needs to get his ass off the field.
Especially in overtime.
Yeah.
Especially in
Game
overtime.
on the line?
Yeah. That's
get somebody on the field that wants to play.
That's in the hot seat for sure. So it's not totally on Martinez. And
no.
I think, and not to get him wrong, because the whole game, they still put up 33 points in that game.
Right.
So at some point, those players were doing work.
True.
You know?
True. And
and Kleiss had a huge game, too, so.
He did.
He got him to the overtime, but hey, you know, that's what it is. this is football and every play counts.
Every play counts.
Especially when it's 33-33.
And you're on the verge of scoring a touchdown, you have to be in the game.
Everybody, and again, that's the huge deal that the Mountain Lions had last season, is everybody knowing what their job is and doing it.
I am a little confused. Why was Mike Kleiss not going out for a pass when the game's on the line?
Who knows, and we were not there, so
of course,
we
gotta speculate.
We can only speculate via, game footage, which is still pretty close. It's clear as day. We're not the only ones that can see this footage.
Right.
And I don't know. I really don't know. And
I'm a little lost for words on this team right now.
The Mountain Lions, and there's still hope for them, because obviously they put up 33 points against last season's champs,
which is a great defensive team.
Huge statement still, regardless of being 0-2. That's still a huge statement. So I'm wondering to see what they're going to do now. This weekend they do play the Luck and the Copperheads, and so this should be a way for them to get to 2-2.
Absolutely.
Now, I should have said this at the beginning of the podcast, but in this division there are 7 teams, and I just want to go through them standing wise. 7 teams in Mid-City Spartan. The Slayers are at the top of the list.
Right.
Swordfish are number 2. Punishers are number 3. Came out hot.
All 2-0.
First 2 franchise games, bam, 2-0. They took out the Copperheads and the Mountain Lions to get that, so props to them. Number 4 is the Luck, who's 1-1, which is still iffy. And then you got the Mountain Lions, who dropped all the way down past that, and then the Copperheads and the Condors. Copperheads aren't having a whole lot of luck either. So there's going to be a lot going on in this division.
And again, one team from this division is not going to make the playoffs, and the rest are.
Right.
So,
and I'm going to be more inclined to say the Condors and the Copperheads are fighting for that spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And maybe even the Luck, because now the Luck, they beat the Condors. And the word is the Condors weren't doing that great. They landed 0-2, and they didn't seem to have it together.
And their quarterback, Brett Edwards, in these 2 games was just straight average.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He did not put up anything amazing, only 5 touchdowns in 2 games.
So you beat the Condors, which should have been a gimme game, and then you lost to the Slayers. So the Luck really hasn't proved anything yet.
Right.
So we'll see. They could very much still be pretenders, and I'd be leaning more towards it, because you got now last season it was the Swordfish, the Slayers, and maybe the Mountain Lions.
Right.
This season it might be the Swordfish, the Slayers, the Punishers, and maybe the Mountain Lions. So there's a 4-way race in this division.
Right. And as of right now, obviously the Swordfish are one of the top 2 teams in that race. You can't even really call them top 2 teams, because it's really top 3 when you're all 2-0 at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, totally. And last season, Tony Monzo did take his squad to that same record last season.
That's right.
And we thought the Condors were going to do really good, and then they started taking a little bit of a dip.
So we'll see what happens there.
Let's talk about the Slayers now. We haven't brought it up, and they're number 1. They came out hot this weekend.
Oh.
I see a little grin on Steven's face.
Let's
talk about this team.
This team, they hold a very special place in my heart.
And the Slayers, it looks
that's right, Galindo.
These first 4 games they have, that's half their season. This is a pretty easy schedule they got.
Yeah, that's very true. And, when you're coming in with a new quarterback at the helm, Rick Conti coming down from the Titan division to play with the Slayers, he made very few mistakes. He didn't have super crazy standout numbers, but he had only 1 interception, and he converted 12-point afters on only 8 touchdowns.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
This week, the Slayers, they play the Swordfish. So this will be a true test of what the Slayers is all about. Conti's going to go up against Caker. Galindo's going to go up against Matt Miller. That's going to be a good one.
Now, talking about Conti and this team, obviously there is a learning curve. You have to get to know your team. They only put up 60 points over 2 games, which is not necessarily, the best. It's average.
Average-ish, leaning a little bit towards pretty well.
But if you're a Titan quarterback playing in Spartan, you better be lighting that shit up.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll give them the week 1 to getting used to each other. This week will be a huge statement. Swordfish are going to play the Slayers, and it's going to be a battle of the 2-0s.
Right.
So one team is going to leave not undefeated anymore. Who do you think, Swordfish or Slayers?
Swordfish we'll talk about in a second, and they really are doing some work this season, and Caker's just on a warpath. Man, I'm going to say if the Slayers can get to know each other between Conti, Galindo, and Hurdler, those 3 players, if they can really get on the same page, this team's going undefeated.
The Swordfish?
Or no, the Slayers. The Slayers.
I agree, too. I mean, on paper, they look very, very good, you know?
Yeah.
So the only thing that's going to stop them will be chemistry. If that's tackled, you're looking at Spartan champions, or at least in the Spartan Cup.
That's true. And
I'd like to see Slayers, Park Bums.
ooh, that'd be a good game. Or Slayers Vikings, perhaps?
Well, Vikings have yet. They're 1-1. So we have yet to see if they're going to put
True.
up or shut up this
True.
season. So
We'll talk about
but
them.
Park Bums are 2-0, and last season they were 8-0. They didn't do so well in playoffs, but as far as regular season standings, 8-0, and now they're already 2-0. I'd like to see it. Slayers and Park Bums, that'd be a huge deal.
And, you know, the Slayers are back at it with their defense as well. Granted, they only had 1 interception, but they did record 4 sacks, which is a good number, and we will see if they can keep it going.
So we're both going Slayers over Swordfish, huh?
For now. I am.
You know, and let's go back and talk about these mountain lions real quick, too. And I want to say, what's it going to take for the mountain lions to get to the Spartan Cup? As outlandish as it might be, which is not totally outlandish, but let's just assume they have to get through a 3-team totem pole at the very least to get to their conference championship. They're going to have to go through the Punishers, it looks like, and then they're going to have to go through the Swordfish, and then they're going to have to go through the Slayers. So these 3 teams are really rough, and as a team, the Mountain Lions need to sit down, and they need to study their division. And they really need to listen to our content and know every team you're about to play, because you know every one of these teams has some key players that we constantly mention, and know what you're going up against. And I think the more research they do on their opponents, the quicker they're going to climb up that totem pole. So Martinez really needs to get cracking with Shelton Ray. And
I will say this, looking at their schedule for the entire season, I only see them losing twice, and one is to the Slayers, and the other is to it's to the Rampage in Interconference
so they would have
week.
lost 3 because they lost to the Swordfish. Well, that would put them at 4 losses.
4-4. I see them going 500 on the season,
and that's what they did last season too, if I'm not mistaken.
True, but
it's still into the playoffs.
So they would have
to
still
win the cup on 4-4.
You could, but they're going to have to either upset the Slayers or the Rampage, who are a virtually unknown team.
But they're 2-0 right now.
But they're 2-0 right now.
Yeah, exactly. So
right.
They're already letting people know.
But if the Mountain Lions can come in and prove Mid-City is the more dominant division and beat the Rampage,
that'd be cool.
That puts them at 5-3 if they lose to the Slayers.
Right. And the Slayers would be playing the Vikings in Interconference Week too, so we'll get some good matchups. Next podcast, we'll be talking all about that, because the Interconference Week will only be a few days after next week's podcast.
Oh, so I can't wait for that.
We're definitely going to hype that up. I didn't want to get too much on this podcast because we're still talking week 1. But next week, we'll be talking Interconference Week.
But when it comes to the Mountain Lions, 4-4.
Yeah, and by next week, all the teams will be halfway through their season. So we'll kind of have a good idea of who's going where. This is a pretty good division, too. And I see a four-way race going on here. And
absolutely.
The Condors, the Copperheads, the Luck, they have to do something extreme to change up what's going on. If they do, they can be threats. But as of right now, I wouldn't even go as far to call them threats until they give me something. At least the Mountain Lions being 0-2, they went 33 points in each game, and that was against the former champs and this new Punisher squad. So
I will say this.
They did put in work.
Copperheads did a complete restructuring of their roster.
They did, but this is still a rough division.
It is. It definitely is. But they do have an X factor on their team. Dom Huffman went over 220 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 games.
They had like 10 people on that squad, so for the first time, the Copperheads has bodies.
That's true.
So,
and if I'm not mistaken, just to take a look at what their situation was this weekend, they found their quarterback. Josh Kimson played both games, and he put up 515 yards and 7 touchdowns, which is
pretty good for a first-time team.
It really is. And so that chemistry is only going to get better. You have that beast in Dom Huffman for this season coming in, and then you also have another good receiver in Mike Michaels. It's going to be good for them.
I won't coin the term they're not threats for this season. I think they'll be sleepers.
It's true.
I think that's safe to say. And they got to really show me something this week. But if they do, I'll call them the sleepers. And they very well might go in against the Mountain Lions and the Punishers and make it very far in playoffs. They might not get to the Spartan Cup, but they have a chance to get pretty far.
Well, they played the Punishers this week, right?
I believe so. The Copperheads, they lost to the Slayers and Punishers this week, yes.
That's right.
And then this week they play the Swordfish and the Mountain Lions. So it's getting rough for them.
It is.
But this will be, when they play the Swordfish, that's what playoffs are going to be like. So we're going to see, playoff type of scenario there.
Right. And it's early, and so even if they were to go 0-4, they could still go 4-4 and get in.
Right.
So it really, next week again is going to tell us a lot, just like this week did. It really gave us some perspective on where these teams are.
Still early, though. We're only 25% into the season, so next podcast will be 50%. It's going to be good. I can't wait to see. I mean, Slayer's got it written all over him.
So you're going with the Slayers.
In the last season, they were the Pioneers, and I went with them in week 1. I said, the Pioneers are going to win the Spartan Cup, and they didn't. They went 6-2. They did pretty well. They got pretty far in playoffs, but I think this season it's going to be a wrap unless something extreme happens. They're going, and I think my crystal ball says they're going to play the Park Bums in the Spartan Cup.
We'll have to talk about that some more, and having this Titan quarterback in Rick Conti is really going to help them.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And the real question will be, let's say they do win the Spartan Cup. Is Conti going to dip out on them and go back to Titan? Or are they going to go straight to Titan?
Is he going to bring them to Titan?
That would be the most epic. That would be the most epic.
If they're going to do that, they need to go 8-0.
They need a whole promo if that's the case next season.
They need to go 8-0 if that's going to happen.
I agree. They have to go 8-0 and win the Spartan Cup.
Yeah.
And even then, it's still treading, you're on a slippery slope. Tons of teams that went 8-0.
I will say this. I love Ernesto Garcia. He's a good center.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if he can hang in Titan.
You about to put him on a spotlight hard.
I don't know if he can hang in Titan.
We'll see.
Titan's rough,
and
man.
is he the only one? That's kind of hard to call out one player from that team.
Well, no, but just in the form of pass blocking pieces, you have Rivas, you have Chase Savage in the Titan division in Mid-City.
They're gonna have
blocking
to do,
those two
they're
guys.
Gonna have to do work on their center.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. He's gonna have to put in some work.
And he did fairly well this weekend, so.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know. I'm just
he's in your hot seat.
That would be one player I would think just off the top of my head that would really need to put in some work.
It is. That's a good hot seat player because right now with the likes of Rick Conti and being
gotta protect
undefeated,
that guy.
Yeah, you got to protect him, and him not blocking up to par. It's going to be a huge contribution to that being undefeated.
Right.
And like I said, they have an easy schedule for the most part.
That's true.
And Garcia might sneak by on these easy rushers, but when it comes time to push a shove and they get a hard team against him, we'll see if he cracks under that pressure.
And that would honestly be my only thing if they were to move up to Titan. I think he can still hang in all these Spartan games.
All these Spartan spots, yeah. So you're just talking the likes of Titan.
If they moved up.
Right. And I think if that was the case, he'll have an undefeated season under his belt, and I think that would be enough to at least hang.
And that'd be huge for his confidence.
Right. So that's a good deal, and I think that is the case. Unless the Swordfish shut them down.
Ooh.
They're going to play them in the last week of the season and then very well likely in the playoffs too. So
shut that shit down. Let's talk about the Swordfish. And let's talk about the beast. And no, I'm not talking Caker. I'm talking Matt Pang. Pang!
Damn. He had a good game, huh?
He had an insane weekend. This dude puts up 8 receptions for 165 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a defensive touchdown.
That's insane for a
Doesn't get any better than that.
I would love to put together some sort of like top 5 scenario where it's like top 5 smallest players that do well.
Right.
Put Sheldon Ray on that list, put Matt Pang, find some other really small guys that are putting up numbers.
Pang led receiving for the Swordfish this
I'd almost
weekend.
like to see Pang go up against Shelton Ray. That's going to be, we have
Damn.
to. I'm sure they did in their games.
Battle of the short dudes.
I'd like to see that. And I think in that situation, I'm going to lean towards Shelton on experience, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then again, we don't know where Matt Pang came from before Tough League. So,
that's a good matchup, though. I'd like to see that.
That'd be good. That'd be real good.
I was going to do a matchup Shelton Ray versus Eric Luna.
That'd be a good matchup, too.
Yeah, Eric Luna's a top receiver from the Vikings, so that would be a cool matchup.
And, Shelton Ray doesn't necessarily put up the major highlight reel plays.
Right.
But I could even match him up with Overstreet.
Yeah, that would be good, too. I'd like to see that. Overstreet's got height for a small guy.
Well, yeah, he's definitely got the ability to jump.
Right.
Which I haven't seen
so
too much
Sheldon.
Shelton, yeah.
Sheldon's got height, but I don't think as much as Overstreet. I'd like to see that competition.
I think Shelton has the power, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And, and there's a lot of highlights coming out lately with Shelton getting beat.
That's true, too.
It's true. So
mostly by big guys, though.
Well, by Galindo.
Galindo's got some height on Shelton. Galindo's taller than me. He's almost 6 foot.
I'll give you that one. All right, we'll give him a pass on that.
Give him a little pass.
If I see more highlights next week of him getting beat,
we'll blast him.
He's getting beat on the deep routes. And,
That's
and that's a defensive strategy call. Like, why is Shelton even having to go deep?
Right.
Why you got your shortest guy covering some guy 1-on-1 all the way in the deep zone?
Yeah, if you're covering some guy deep, that means that guy's got speed and height.
And Mountain Lions have a ton of tall guys on their squad. There should be no reason why Shelton's in the backfield.
Yeah, Clyce needs to be a cornerback.
Yeah, and Shelton needs to cover that middle because he is quick. And he can get to those short yards and stop their receivers. So they need some work, and I think. And word is their offense was on point,
True.
So just a little fine tuning. They need chemistry. They need structure. Their guys need to know what they're doing. They need something because.
One more player I want to put on blast. John Caker. And we're putting him on blast. He's on blast.
I say because I just got done talking to him not too long ago. Little did I know we'd be putting him on blast.
He's on blast for me.
Okay.
And the reason why is because, yes, he put up 500 yards this week. And so he's on track for 2,000 already.
Okay.
Put up 10 touchdowns. He's on track for 40 touchdowns. That's
not
huge.
50.
That ain't 50.
That ain't 50.
There is no way that equals 50.
He better step it up during the season then.
You need to
it's just week
step
one,
it up,
so.
Caker. I want to see more numbers.
That's still pretty close though.
I don't give a rat's ass how close it is. He needs to hit that 50.
Or 51.
Damn right, it better be 50.
And what did Rick Conti put up this weekend? Because I had said last week that if Caker were to put up 50 touchdowns, there should be no reason why Conti's not putting up 60.
So let's say this: Caker put up 10 this weekend, and Conti put up 8.
Ooh, interesting.
And I would even say so. Let's say this too: Conti played the Copperheads and the Luck, which are two bottom teams. Only put up 8 touchdowns. The Swordfish played the Mountain Lions, which is a lot harder of a team, but then they also played the Condors.
Interesting.
And womp womp. Condors only putting up 6 points in each game is not going to cut it in Tough League. I'm sorry.
This is an exciting division. And just as Mid-City is, it looks like there's 2 dominant teams in these 2 divisions.
I would put the Punishers there, but we'll see. They're still yet to be heard.
Right, that's true too. Right.
That
is true. The only reason I say the Slayers is because on paper they look really good. As far the Punishers do look good on paper, but it's mostly the Condors from last season, so we know what they can and cannot do sometimes. So
I would say the Swordfish probably have the most chemistry out of these teams, but the Slayers probably have the best team on paper.
Yeah. And Punishers, they I don't know what it's going to be like this season, but I know that they get in the heads of their opponents a lot, and that it tends to hurt them. They lost in the first round of the playoffs, so we'll see if they end up being threats in the playoffs this time.
Yeah, and again, the new Condors team is the Punishers.
Yeah, so we're going to see what's going on here. So far, Swordfish, Slayers, it's going to happen this week, and we're both going with Slayers in this one, huh? So Caker really is in the hot seat here.
You know what, Caker?
This will tell us a lot
about.
Prove
me wrong.
Yeah, prove us wrong. This will say who's going to be, in the first spot for the Spartan Cup for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if it's a blowout. Slayers blow out the Swordfish.
Or Swordfish blow out the Slayers.
But if the Slayers blow out the Swordfish, we're in possession of the Spartan Cup right now. I might as well just go give it to them right now.
Wow. I will say this, though.
If the Slayers blow them out this weekend, that Spartan Cup's as good as theirs.
I will say this. I think this game is going to come down to who plays the better defensive game.
Yeah, it will.
Because both these teams can put up points. We know that.
It will. But it's going to come down to chemistry and keeping it going.
It's going to come down to Katrina Nicholson and Hunter Hudson sacking Conti at least 3 times.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see it.
That'd be great. But then again,
one of these teams is going to be leaving not undefeated. Battle of the 2-0s on this one.
It's going to be good. I'm excited. This is going to be a good game. I can't wait to watch this.
Either way, it's going to be a good statement because either the Slayers are going to tell the Swordfish, hey, that cup is ours, or the Swordfish are going to say, hey, nope, it's staying right here.
Yeah,
so
we're keeping it.
Whoever wins that game is a big deal, whether you win by a point or a blowout. That's going to be a big statement for the rest of the season. So I can't wait to see. That's going to be our game of the week, and in the next podcast, we'll definitely be covering that game and what had happened.
All right, great. Well, that sounds good for this division. Keep an eye out for the Mid-City Titan Division podcast. We did talk a little Survivor Challenge in there, so make sure you listen to that. You will catch us next week on the Tough Talk podcast. I'm Steven, that's Danny. Have a great night.